Platforming games are having a bit of a renaissance in VR right now. There's more and more titles come in which you control your little buddy on screen, but also interact directly with the experience. My Monsters is another one of these titles, but can it compete with the growing competition? Stick around and you'll find out. So first up, before we dive into the gameplay, we have to talk about that visual style. This is what has grabbed the attention with My Monsters. In the game, you as the player are yourself, which is known as a traveller, and you have your little buddy, Motti, on the screen. And he is a little purple dude with a white face mask, and it's cute. It is super cute. The whole game is designed in this hand-painted style, where everything is colourful and has thick black outlines, and it works. It works really well. There's a lot of characters in the game that are actually very interesting, and you're going to want to meet them and speak to them and complete some side quests along the way for them. And the whole game is centered around the fact that you can move your head in and out of the space that it provides to add extra depth, to add extra layers and uncover secrets and so on. You'll explore this world with Motti as your companion. You two are adventuring together. The game has a storyline about emotional bonds and so on. And it works, it's interesting. As you progress, you'll have to take down 3 different characters, 3 different enemies, big bads, that are all designed around 3 different emotions. And the idea being that you're growing your bond with Motti, or re-establishing your bond with Motti, as you take down each one of these boss characters. The game is split into 3 different worlds, 3 different biomes, related specifically to these characters. Though we're only going to show you footage from the first one here, as we don't want to put out any spoilers. And as you do take down each one of these, you'll gain new abilities that help you explore and give you new challenges to face. So the platforming element is pretty much as you would expect for the genre in VR right now. If you're thinking like Lucky's Tale or Barely Escape, of which you can see our review up here, then you're probably along the right path. Less so Moss, but that level of interaction is still very similar, or at least the ways in which you interact. That is, the player's input is actually quite minimal here. You can lift and maneuver platforms, and occasionally you'll have to touch Motti in order for something to happen, but realistically, it is you looking around the environment, deciding where to move Motti to with the controller. The level of interaction that you have with the world is much less than the likes of Moss and Barely Escape, and more along the lines of Lucky's Tale. You do have elements that you can touch and that you can change and manipulate, but they're not the core of the experience. The core of the experience is still controlling Motti on the screen and completing platforming challenges. The stages are relatively small in scale, but they do expand as you progress. It's a system in which you'll have an environment in front of you for the most part, and you'll have to look around, moving your head in the real world in order to examine the world that's outlined in front of you and plot a path for you to take your character, for you to take Motti through. You'll see the entrance where you begin and a potential exit, and all sorts of different levels and platforms and rock sides along the way. And My Monsters is actually really good at suggesting there are pathways which might lead to the exit, but actually don't. And so you do have to explore. You do have to try a lot of different things in order to progress from A to B. And there are all sorts of hidden collectibles that are really tucked around corners and so on. So you really do need to get in and examine this world before you decide on the path you're going to take. And in that, My Monsters is great. It is a wonderful time being in that headset and looking around these beautiful landscapes and trying to decide, if I go down this route, will I miss anything? Can I find a hidden object there? And so on. Sadly, between each one of these stages, there is a loading time that is a bit... It does interfere with your interaction, your immersion with the game a little bit. If you're thinking like Fable, the original Fable on the original Xbox console, how there was small self-contained areas and then a loading screen between each one, you're not going to be a million miles away. This normally isn't too big a deal until you get to stages which have platforming challenges that go between multiple sections, multiple stages. And as such, if you fail on the second or third stage, you have to go back to the start and go through multiple loading screens before you get back to where you were, and then go through multiple loading screens again to get to the point you want to be at. Needless to say, This is quite annoying. It's understandable for the depth of each of these stages, for the visual quality of them, but it doesn't make it any less annoying. What you'll find as you're progressing and you're going through these multiple loading screens is often many of the levels will have branching pathways, and now this is exciting. You'll get into an arena and realize actually there are several different paths that you can take, and each one of them will contain secrets or a challenge of some kind. And this is great stuff. This is wonderful exploration in VR at its finest. However, some of these challenges fall into the usual trap of kill all the enemies to proceed. And the combat in the game, I mean, it feels like it's an afterthought. It's incredibly imprecise. You'll be swiping with very basic attacks that Motti has, and it'll feel like you're facing the right direction and you're going to hit the enemy, but instead they launch a spike attack that hits you and you take damage. Thankfully, combat isn't the largest part of the game, but certainly you could do with a bit more precision in the way in which Motti's attacks are delivered. And as I say, these kill all the enemies to progress kind of areas, maybe it would have been a better idea to take them out of the game, because it doesn't really fit with the rest of the adventure. What's more, My Monsters isn't actually a game for beginners. There is no hand-holding in this game. It starts off by telling you you can move and jump, but it never tells you about combat. It also gives you dodge moves and other abilities, but never tells you how to execute them. There are many challenges in this game where there is no information about how you're going to complete them. You can be stuck in a single stage, in a single environment, for quite some time as you're trying to figure out where's the last lantern I need to hit to open a gate? What's the pathway I need to create in order to get from A to B? Basically, it sometimes just devolves into hitting stuff until something becomes obvious. There's no direction as to how challenges are overcome in the game. You simply have to work your way through, bit by bit, following every pathway and uncovering every different interactable item that you can. And as such, My Monsters is a game for people who want an explorative puzzle platforming challenge. It's not going to be a quick completion, despite the fact that it's not actually that big. What it is going to be is a game in which you have to think about your platforming commitments rather than just simply running and execute them with the likes of Lucky's Tale and Mario. My Monsters is a fantastic looking platform game that's just as much of a mental challenge as it is a dexterity one. The interaction that you have with the world, it could have been improved upon a bit, could have been expanded, and that combat is, honestly, it's the most annoying part of the game by far. My Monsters is a great time if you're looking for a more explorative, mentally taxing platforming game. If you want something a bit more simple, something that's going to challenge your dexterity more than it is your ability to uncover secrets, then maybe take a look at Barely Escape. That's a pretty good time too. But right now, the platforming genre in VR is in a really good place. And My Monsters, it's going to rank pretty highly with a lot of users out there.